Hi, my name is Allison, and this is my daughter Jade, and we're excited to be here. I am the founder and executive director for Let's Get Together and mother of 3 amazing children.
My name is Jade. I'm 22 years old, and I am a recent graduate from Brock University, where I studied child and youth studies. And I'm currently now in college for my social service worker diploma.
Hi, I'm Amy. This is my daughter Ritu. We came to Canada in January 2014, halfway through Ritu's grade 10. The main reason to come here was because Ritu wanted to pursue her post-secondary education here in Canada, as opposed to India, giving her more options. And she's now in university.
Yeah, I'm a second-year student in the York Sheridan program for design. So graphic design and web design. And I'm really liking it. I live at home and I commute.
I'm Alex. I'm 23 years old. I currently work as a theater artist. I recently just finished a postgraduate course at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in London, England. And before that, I was in the drama program at Brock University.
And I'm Jeanette. I'm his mom. I am a working mom. I have 2 children, Alex and Jamie, and both of them have now finished university and done both graduate and postgraduate work.
Hi, I'm Rachel and this is John. We're siblings. I'm the older sibling and he's the younger sibling. I am currently a second-year master's student at the University of Toronto, and I am serving on the City of Toronto's Youth Political Advisory Committee and Elections Network.
Hello, I'm John. I'm a 4th-year student studying at UTM. I study political science, criminology, and sociology. I am currently doing a work study position with the Center for Student Engagement as a co-curricular record activity assistant, as well as being a research assistant in a sociology project with a professor.
In grade 12, when you were supposed to, September, October, November is when we started learning about the different colleges and when we were supposed to start submitting our application. And from what I remember, it's been a couple of years, I remember I came to my parents with a PowerPoint of my choices set out already. But they did help discuss what kind of fields I wanted to go in first. What I wanted to go into, which was working with children and youth. And from there, I kind of did my research, made a PowerPoint, came to them, and then showed them the pros and cons of each of the universities, and therefore they helped me decide which one I wanted to go to.
Yeah, Jade was unusual in that way. PowerPoint presentation was a way to convince us to do things.
I did a lot of things.
But I recall, having some discussions earlier in terms of what do you want to do when you get older? And that started, I would say, grade 10, grade 11, because we did look at post-secondary options. But in hindsight, we would start earlier for sure. But she was her own self-directed child.
I would say probably grade 10 just because of the move and the reasons why we did move to Canada. But like streams wise and what I would actually be doing, probably in grade 11.
Yeah, because things did change from grade 10 to 11.
Yeah, it did, because of the things that I took.
Because of the courses you took.
Yeah.
I would say we started talking about it in grade 11 when it came down to my undergrad. And for postgrad, I brought up the subject around the summer of my 3rd year. I really started getting more into it in my 4th year. I think by September of my 4th year, I was very well set on wanting to do a postgraduate in theater. I wasn't quite ready to leave theater school yet because the atmosphere was just so incredible, and I wanted to get more training in theater.
And basically what he's saying, grade 11, we started talking what he wanted to do and what other schools to maybe consider and what was his future.
So at school, we had a strong guidance counselor support system, as well as our teachers supported us and guided us throughout every step of the way in our application process and thinking about different options we have, whether it's college, university, apprenticeship, or going to the workforce immediately. So I feel like because I went through it first, John, had a good idea going into his post-secondary school options.
Mhm.
And for me though, it was kind of by force. Everyone in my cohort was going through the same process, figuring life out, figuring out our next move. So even though I'm the eldest of our family and no one else has been through post-secondary school in Canada, I thought it was okay for me because I had support from my education system and peers.
It wasn't difficult because I knew Jade knew what she wanted, and she was able to explain to us why she wanted it. And for us, it was about passion. We knew she was passionate, she cared, and she had experience in this field. Our one concern was, would she be able to make enough of a living from it? And based on our research and part of her PowerPoint presentation, she did show that she could generate income from being in social work. But we did talk about the pros and cons of the role.
It wasn't a struggle for me. For me, my main concern was to see what actually Ritu wanted to do for post-secondary, and to make sure she made the choice based on, of course, what she wanted to do, and of course also what would be a good career path for her. So we did have a lot of discussions.
Yeah.
And jumped from one to the other, engineering, design, and then finally decided on design because that was her strong suit.
No, because I believe in supporting my child in what their dreams are. Because I actually went to university myself, I know that you have to study what you want, because if you tell your child to study something that they're not happy with, they're not going to enjoy school, they're going to party, they're going to waste your money. So it's better to support what they want to do. And he wanted to continue with his drama. We say that's fine as long as he went to a post-secondary school for it, because we always emphasize that education is very important and he has something to fall back on.
I didn't have any struggles with her because she was already like 2 years ahead of me, as she stated earlier. So she already kind of had an idea of what she wanted to do with her future. Well, in terms of me, at that time in entering post-secondary studies, I was kind of leaning towards studying computer science and then also looking for a job or a career as a police officer. But then we did have some sort of tension when I said that I wanted to do something that I really was interested in, something that I was more passionate about, which is what I'm doing right now, political science, sociology, because it's the type of discipline that really gets me ticking. It really gets me to think about how society operates and the theoretical frameworks that people subconsciously engage with in their everyday lives. So in that case, like, we were having some discussions in regards to whether it's a viable study, a viable discipline that will give you a job in the future. But for me, I said, if you really love what you're doing, I think it's best to just pursue whatever you're passionate about.
Well, I knew from a young age that I've always loved working with children and youth, so I knew I wanted to go towards that kind of field. I didn't know at the time, even in high school, grade 12, or even first and second year university, that I wanted to go into social work specifically. I just knew working with children and youth, so I looked for those kind of broad programs, like Guelph has a child, youth, and family program. Brock, where it ended up going, was a child and youth program. So I just looked for those. I knew what kind of passion or interest I had, even if it wasn't specific to a career, and I just kind of went and pursued it that way. Looked at the programs. Ontario College website was really good at narrowing down programs.
I pretty much always thought like university was the next step. I really didn't think much about it, like a gap year or taking a 13th year. And I think generally, like parents wise, they also sort of expected that I would go to university. But just personally, it was like a goal of mine to get a degree. And yeah.
In terms of my undergrad, I went to Performing Arts High School. And in about grade 11, I did my first big musical with the school. And it really was just the atmosphere, the environment, the energy of the class, and putting something up on the stage. It really was one of the most proudest moments of my life for me. Because before then I was debating like, oh, maybe I can go into archaeology or photography, but it wasn't until I did that musical that I was like, I want to pursue drama to its fullest extent. And so that influenced me to go to Brock University for the drama program. And it was during there that I say around my second to fourth year, because I started getting really involved with extracurricular productions. I started taking classes in other aspects of drama, from production, directing, writing, drama education. And that made me want to pursue a postgraduate degree as well in theater. Because the atmosphere of a theater school is so supportive, provided of course you went to the right one. And really it is that feeling and energy you get from drama that to me couldn't be matched anywhere else. So I wanted to continue pursuing that and everything.
Well, when Jade was very young, I think it was probably about 4 or 5, we started an ESP program, and in hindsight would have, wanted to start it when she was an infant, and that's what we did with our third one. But we had an RESP program, so, every chance we had, we contributed to the account on a monthly basis, and then when we had extra funds or where grandparents gave money, then we would add to that, and it definitely made a big difference in terms of helping
not worrying about finances.
Yeah, fund post-secondary.
I also looked into bursaries and grants when I was going in to university, and I made sure we talked about when I was going into university looking at a budget, because for working during the summer, and if I could get a part-time job, that wasn't the main one. We didn't want to get a part-time job because I wanted to focus on my studies, but during the summer I got a part-time job and then would budget from there that money that I earned throughout the year.
The part-time job, though, did come after you made that transition and figured out what happened and
comfortable with.
And the one thing I think we would look back on is scholarships. So just identifying and learning more about what scholarships are available to help subsidize the costs even further.
So we finance it mainly through our savings. Since we were new to Canada, we didn't have too many resources or information about all the resources available to us.
Yeah.
And the one thing we knew was about the OSAP loan, in which we were not too keen on. But as far as scholarships and bursaries go, we did research a bit online.
Yeah, because of my grades, I got a pretty good scholarship from York University, and then I got an email like a few days before the deadline for other scholarships, and then we quickly ran through each one, and nothing really seemed to apply to me, mainly because of the minority that we are. Like there are different kinds of scholarships for different minorities, so definitely knowing where to look for those would be really good.
And also there is not much in terms of scholarships for design especially.
Yeah, even though it is a very expensive program to be in.
Yeah, it does involve a lot of extra costs.
Yeah.
Whereas other mainstreams, they have more scholarships and
for sure
resources available.
For this, we actually did a lot of savings. We started the RESP when the kids were small. Also, through his summer school, we very strongly believed that he had to help as well to pay for his education. So We had a deal where we either paid the tuition or he paid his rent. And we believe that if the child is involved in some aspect of paying for their education, they actually they understand what it costs to be in it, as opposed to if you pay for everything, kids are easily, well, oh, I want to quit now because I don't feel like doing this. Or I want to change my career or whatever it is. They just don't take ownership of the school. But if they are involved in some way, paying for it, I think they do take ownership on what it is and how much it costs. So we did a combination of all of that and summer work. And our idea was when they graduated from post-secondary, that they will have no loans for school. But going into postgraduate, we believe that at that point they have to go and do it on their own. So in this case, Alex went and got a loan, and through summer school, he paid for that, and we helped through little things here and there.
What did we do? We supported Jade in her role. While we may have had other choices or preferences in terms of which university or college she wanted to pursue, we knew we had to let her make that choice and support her and make sure she understood why she made those choices. So we'd ask a lot of questions, and then our role was to support her. Other ways to ensure that transition was to make sure she could fend for herself, knowing that she was going to be living away from home. So she could, know how to go out shopping for groceries, the transportation system, budgeting, knowing how to ask for help. One of the things we did, and we are so glad we did, was Brock University offered a introductory, welcome orientation course for first year students, and she went there for a day, but it was for a good period of time where she got to know the university, what resources were available, and how to ask for help and who to ask for help when needed.
Yeah. And just a note, you guys were always really good at, if I needed to call you for anything, even to just vent with what's going on in my life, or if I need to come home for a weekend, you were very good at that. If I need to come home and get some real food, not residence food or mac and cheese. So it was good that way. Good transition.
Thank you.
Well, honestly, to be honest, I am not familiar with the university programs in Canada and how it works and stuff. So it was pretty new to me as well. So we did a lot of research together, and I went to her interview portfolio interviews and stuff with her. Her dad went with her to the universities when he was here, and whatever other support we could, transportation wise or whatever, would take off the little anxieties that that are there when you're new to a university and stuff. Whatever I could do to support her, I did. But to be honest, not being from Canada itself had a few roadblocks for that, because I didn't know what she would expect. So I didn't know how to help her with that. But when she came across those not problems, but challenges, we kind of tried to figure it out together, and which was
it was good.
It was good. It worked out.
Did it help you?
Yeah, for sure. I don't really expect them to help me in work wise. I think that's just up to me. But logistics, helping me get organized, stuff like that, it was a big help.
You gotta have the right high school, and you have to be involved. As a parent, I was very involved in the high school. I was a parent chair, I was a fundraising chair, I was helping with any kind of volunteer when they were looking for volunteers. At that time, I wasn't working yet full time, so I had the time. But even when I didn't have the time, I volunteered when I could. But that was the key, is be involved with the school, know what's going on, and find the right high school that teaches your kid and supports your kid.
My transition, I feel like I was by myself because I'm the oldest, but for John's transition, I think I knew what to say to guide him so that he can be more successful than I was. So I recommended a bunch of first year transition programs to him, because in hindsight's 2020, and I can recommend those things knowing that I went through it and I knew what I missed out on, and I wish I could have went through those programs. I didn't, so the only thing I can do is recommend it for future cohorts or future generations. So in my case, it would be a sibling. So I told him I recommended to get involved, to go through these specific programs or these specific clubs, because they will help you in your university transition, not only in first year, but throughout the 4 years. And I hope it was successful for him.
My sister covered a lot of the things that I would have said. I just wanted to touch upon this aspect though. One thing that she really helped me in was she gave me a means to start volunteering, because I'm not gonna deny that I don't like volunteering. I love volunteering, but what was the catalyst that got me to begin volunteering? I guess it was mostly my sister, because in my high school years, I was mostly, that's what you call a typical video gamer. I spent many hours in the day on the computer playing video games. Wasn't really social, didn't really know how to be social. So what really grabbed me by the collar and dragged me around to volunteering places was essentially my sister, who just showed me like a different type of environment, something that I wasn't used to. And at first, for sure, it wasn't really easy to transition into that type of environment. But then once you meet type of people such as yourself and many others in volunteering exercises that we participated in, you just realize that this is the type of thing that you want to continue on doing. You want to do whatever you can for the community and at the same time grow as a person. So if it wasn't for my sister, I guess I would still be playing video games.
You are not going to end up doing what you thought you were going to do. Things are definitely going to change. You're going to realize you suck at certain things that you thought you were good at and are actually good at other things. And your wants and your interests are going to go all over the place. You're going to experience so much. So don't be set in your ways. Like, don't be like, I'm going to be a writer because I'm really good at writing stories. When I was grade 7, grade 9, you might realize, hey, I'm really good at photography, because when you go into high school you weren't exposed to photography, and they had a great photography program, and then figure out you want to do photography and maybe be a journalist if you want to add that writing. But like, things are going to change, you're going to fail at things, and it's going to be okay. You're all just it's going to move forward and you'll succeed in the end.
I think like, especially because I've like taken high school in India and then come here, you can see like the variety of different courses you can take here is amazing. Like the only reason I started thinking about design seriously was because I took a media arts course on a whim, and my art teacher was like adamant that I try. So just take a variety of different courses that you think you might be interested in, and time management skills, build those from like early on, because it's so difficult towards the end.
I guess it comes more into how you prioritize and look at your education. I recently kind of more learned this in my postgrad, but when you go into your education, your training, you're doing it for you. I know that right now there's like a big trend want to impress authority figures, impress your parents, impress your teacher, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. It's about, can you impress yourself with the knowledge that you have gained? Your own approval is what should matter most above anyone else's. Also, let's talk about the subject of grades. At the end of the day, a grade is just a number on a sheet. It's just a letter on a sheet. And a lot of jobs won't look at your grade. So, and I guess this was something I learned more in my postgrad, was to, in terms of why I'm in this class, why I'm learning, I learned to put the concept of getting a higher grade secondary to what am I actually learning? How what I am learning going to apply to my future career? I learned to put aside the pressure of like, oh my God, I have to stay on honor roll. Oh my God, I have to achieve this certain grade. Because if you do that, you're not actually learning. You're actually learning for your own benefit. You're learning for the benefit of a number on a piece of paper that job employers eventually won't even care about. And because of that, I oftentimes in my undergrad, I either would not fully get the lessons that were being given to me because I was more focused on the number grade, or I would find myself focusing on classes that I knew I could get a high grade in, rather than looking at the ones I wasn't getting the highest grades in and seeing, okay, where can I learn from there? But again, not for the sake of a grade, but for the sake of my own learning and my own future practice as well. I mean, we all know the stereotype that students will often calculate how much I need to get on this exam in order to pass the course. That's not beneficial for you whatsoever. If you focus more on what am I learning, being passionate about your learning, focusing more on how can this learning help me in my future career outside of an educational institution, then good grades will inevitably come after that. But getting that good grades, getting on that honor roll should not be your main priority. It needs to be more about the lessons that you're going to take from this and how you can apply them to your future career. And again, you're not in education to impress anyone. You're not getting those good grades in classes to impress your parents or authority figures or anyone else. You're in it for your own benefit, so focus on you.
So what I would do when if I look back and can go back and talk to myself, is to have those conversations a lot earlier. In elementary school, even though you're thinking about high school, also think about the big picture, because what they do in high school can really also affect their post-secondary path. So start having some of those discussions earlier, which is the reason why we're hosting this event. We got lucky in terms of Jade was a lot more independent and self-directed and she knew what she wanted to do. But that's not always the case. So starting those conversations earlier and having that connection makes it easier when you go through the high school years. And listening. Listening is a big part of learning as a parent as well too, and that's an area I know as a parent I need to still work on, because in my head I have my plans, but listening is something I would probably tell myself when I'm younger.
The one piece of advice, one thing is that you definitely need to communicate a lot, and not not shy from difficult topics like maybe mental health or finances. Discuss your finances with your kids so they know what you are capable of and what they what they can and cannot pursue. Another thing I would say would be discuss things openly with them as to what they want to pursue, and if that is different from what you expect of them, and the reasons of the reasoning behind you asking, questioning their choices, and to actually see the reasoning behind their choices, and then truly balance the two and see what actually is behind the reasoning behind it all, rather than going my way or the highway. So
it's having an open discussion.
An open discussion to kind of
compromise.
Yeah, to see this makes more sense, even though it doesn't align with what I think. But I'm willing to change my mind for that. So
if they go and do what they want, they will get more out of it. But if you push them and say, well, I really want you to go into business, or I want you to be a doctor, and you definitely have to take these courses. If your child is not made for that kind of academics or whatever, you're making a child fail. It's better to let them find their own path as a parent. Just be there and support them.
any of like the Ontario College, Ontario University websites, that's a huge database that you can look to see the specific programs and the different information, and then it will from there take you to the specific website of that university and that college program, etc. Were helpful. I found that the most helpful for me was actually going to the university and colleges and doing a tour, finding out, they always have tours or information sessions that would, you want to know the feel of the environment. That really helped me decide what I felt comfortable and if I was comfortable there and if I wanted, like, understand I would succeed there.
For myself, it was talking to people who have gone through the journey of helping their own children transition, both successful and unsuccessful. There's a lot of lessons to be learned, which is one of the reasons why, we're doing this as part of the EXPOs. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from other people's stories and journeys. And so talking to others, parents, is a great tool. Listening to other students' experience too, and as a parent trying to understand what they've gone through and why they make their choices. And the other one is talking to the educators. I had the privilege of connecting with some of my former high school teachers, and I went back and spoke to them and say, what would you do? But knowing that times have changed from when I was in high school. So talking to current educators and asking them, what can I do to better support my child? They were helpful.
Personally, I think my art teacher was pretty much a really good resource. She was the one that convinced my dad that it was a viable option for me to go into design. Also, my guidance counselor at school was actually pretty helpful. But yeah, those were the two for me, I think.
So people,
yeah,
in the education system.
Yeah, and then if I was deciding between OCAD and YSDN, the program that I'm in now, and that was really difficult because OCAD has this history and everybody associates design with that. But I went on Reddit a lot. I read blogs and stuff to decide between the two. So online resources were there as well.
Not really so much from high school to my undergraduate. Obviously, student union was very helpful. Brock University's sort of the RAs and also the faculty were great. When it came down to move to London, that was where I knew I needed some help, because I was not only moving to a new city or a new school, I was moving to a whole new country. And really, I think the Facebook groups, the alumni, the student union as well. Particularly, I recommend this to anyone who's going to do their studying abroad. Go to every international event your school will host, because they will not only tell you how to not only do all the paperwork for London or any other country, but will teach you how to get around the transport system, which grocery stores are going to be the cheapest. I was very lucky. I managed to get into a place where I had my meals covered, which is great. They're also going to teach you fun activities to do in the city, because particularly when you move abroad, if you're there just for school, you are missing out so much on what that country has to offer. So I would even say, look up the local little blogs in your area as well, though, so you can get a feel of what's going on in the city, stuff you can do, so you can really enhance your experience abroad.
To be honest, when I was transitioning from high school to post-secondary school or university, I don't think I had any useful or specific resources that I had that guided me. But I can speak about my transition from undergrad to grad school and different resources I had along the way to make that transition. So one of the resources that I had was our school, because our school has a department of student affairs, which consists of student life at the time and career center. And so I was very involved in those two departments, and they consist of staff who are trained to help university students transition throughout their careers and throughout their lives. So I would approach those people and seek advice from them.
So my path completely changed. I think I've gone to, for secondary and post-secondary, I've gone to 4 schools because I went to 2 different high schools. That path changed. I decided I wanted to go towards the IB program, International Baccalaureate program, because I was like, I'm going to go far away from here and go travel the world, and then realized that's not really what I wanted to do. So I decided to move high schools. I was one not in the area, so that's why I had to change the high school, and did AP, and then I went to university. It was a university and a college program, but then I decided I didn't want to do that college part of the program, so I dropped that and just did the university part, and then now I'm going back to college, and I'm still wondering where I'm going to end up, if I'm going to go for a master's, if I'm going to start working. It changes, but we're adaptable by nature, so we'll survive. It's just, and it may seem that when you're going through all of these changes, it might seem wrong, like you've failed, but you're not. You're just learning, you're growing and developing, so you'll figure it out, and in the end, it's all going to work out. You just need to be strong, stick to what keeps you passionate and interested, and work hard at your studies. And even if it's not studies, if it's something else that interests you or a different level of studies that interests you, then make that change and work hard at it, and you're going to succeed. So it's okay to change, and it's okay to stuff. You'll still
And that's
do well.
the key part with parents is it's okay for your children to change, but have those discussions early so you do minimize, because it is costly sometimes, those changes, but to support them and encourage them, and you're both learning, and that's the key part, is you're both learning on this journey, and to have that compassion and wiggle space and enjoy it together.
So I changed paths a few times. I was going to go into engineering for a long time. I applied for engineering and got in. But then at like the last moment, I just decided that I wouldn't be happy doing it. And so talked to them, and I got into design.
And Amy, how did you handle that?
Honestly, I was happy she went into design because I did see a lot of potential. I saw her work, and her teachers were telling us all the time that this is something she should pursue because she is talented. And I was happy that she did what she did because I can see her work now. She's really good.
Great. Thank you.
I would say my path had changed in the sense that I have diversified. One of the best things about the arts is that it is such an expansive field of work. You know, when I think before going to Brock, I used to think of like drama as like there's producer, there's director, writer, actor, scenographer, that's it. But ever since going to Brock and doing Royal Central, doing the MA Advanced Theater Practice program, I've learned about a number of different pathways that you can use drama in, such as marketing, education, dramaturgy, applied theater, more community-based work as well. And also, I would say that for anyone going to any sort of field, you might have a very specific vision of what you have in mind, whether you want to pursue a particular branch of science, or in the case of drama, you just want to be an actress, or just a performer in some way, or a director. You really need to keep your mind open to the different possibilities in your field. And in addition, some people be like, oh, I just want to be a Shakespearean performer. Well, that's not beneficial to you, because that job market is skint. But I found along the way, I've really begun to diversify what I want to do in the arts, and really have taken a lot of risks.
So for me to pick one career like doctor or lawyer or teacher, and no offense to those careers, they're great careers, I just never saw myself in them. It would be very difficult because I know I would change my mind because something sparks my interest. So for me, in high school, I started off wanting to become a pharmacist. And then towards the end of high school, I decided to pursue a degree in statistics, and I wanted to work as a data analyst or a statistician. And then my graduate school, I decided to pursue a degree in public policy. those are all different careers because they cater to different interests at different points of my life. But what was consistent, I believe, in those 3 career paths that I selected was I really like analytical skills and research and working with numbers. And I saw that I can use the analytical skill in all 3 careers. And also what was consistent was the feeling of service. So if I were to become a pharmacist, not that that's gonna happen, it was because I wanted to serve people. If I was going to become a statistician, I wanted to work for the government because I wanted to educate people using numbers and simplifying that so that it can make sense of society.
As a parent, I would definitely let parents know life is very busy, but do take that time and make that time to spend with your kids and ask them questions and get to know who their friends are, what their interests are, especially who their friends are, because these are the greatest influencers, you know, and sometimes even before family. So knowing who their friends are and inviting them and being part of their lives will help you strengthen your connection with them.
And help understand what they're going through.
Yeah.
And what's going on through their head. Because they don't always open up. Sometimes.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Oh, parent involvement is super important, absolutely. But sometimes parent involvement turns into kind of parent imposition, which is the difference between involvement and actually imposing your ideas and thoughts. Involvement would be more of a discussion and to just be there to support, basically, I would say. And since your child is now turning into an adult, let them take the reins of their life a little bit and be there to just guide and support. Yeah. That would be my idea of involvement.
Yeah, and obviously it's a non-traditional field to go into, and my dad was really hesitant, but I understood why, and it's just as if you're really passionate about something, you should be able to defend why you're going into the field, and it's obviously they weren't going to be 100% on board in the beginning, and just knowing that that's okay and trying to just
and it takes different people. Like even her teacher was kind enough to speak with her dad and explain to him how much potential she had, which finally convinced him.
Yeah, that was the reason, and that he was okay with it.
So yeah, parent involvement, teacher involvement matters a lot.
I think that when you kind of look at your kid, I think there's a couple things you need to recognize. Number one, they're not always going to turn out like you, and that's okay. That could even be great. Also, that they are a unique individual, and with the right amount of encouragement and drive, they're going to find their own path to be successful. Now, when I say all support, it doesn't mean you completely coddle them. But you have to encourage them to continue working, to continue finding their passion and pursuing their passion as well. And I think also it's important to not just look at your kid, but also look at the world that they're going to inherit at the same time. Because, the world and society my mom grew up in is much more different from the one that I grew up in. Employment rates have changed, education has changed, everything has changed. So it's important that when you are helping your child out with their future into the world, you have to remember that they're not going to be able to walk the same path as you as all the time, because the world you grew up and you did your education is so much more different from the one it is today.
To have patience with your child, the only reason why I would say that is because we grew up in different generations. So what you thought was the norm may not be the norm in my generation. So as a follow-up to my previous example, my parents believe that choosing one career and sticking with it for the rest of their life is a norm. And that's what they've seen their peers do. So that's what they expect of themselves, and that's what they expect from us. But that's not the case in our generation. We face a lot of work precarity, and we develop different interests throughout our lives. So I would just ask parents to have patience so that you can take the chance to understand your children and talk to them and actively listen. Ask them why they think that way, or why they see their career or their life that way. And also, please keep an open mind, because their response might not be what you expect, but there will be substance, and there will be reason, hopefully, as to why they respond that way, or as to why they want to pursue life that way, or they see their trajectory in that way. So that's what I would give. That's a piece of advice I would give to parents.
All in all, I would say try to surround yourself with a group of people that would continuously motivate you, that would continuously be supportive of you, and people that won't try to just bring you down.